Have you heard? It's truck news.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
That's right, it's time to get into this week's truck news. But first, a message from our sponsors. This episode of the Truck Show podcast, Have You Heard?, is proudly presented by Nissan. Nissan has the right truck or family hauler for your needs, along with legendary Nissan durability. Test drive a Frontier or Armada at a local dealer today, or point your browser to nissanusa.com, where you can use the build and price tool to configure a Nissan that fits your lifestyle. And if you love your truck as much as we love ours, then why not give it the best lubricants money can buy? A pioneer in synthetic lubricants for more than 50 years, AMSOIL products deliver wear protection, engine cleanliness, and fuel efficiency that conventional oils simply can't match. Whether you need oil, lube, grease, transmission fluid, car care products, filters, or even complete oil change kits, you'll find everything you need at AMSOIL.com. If you're a truck guy, then you're definitely a knife guy, and you should have a Kershaw in your pocket. All Kershaw knives, regardless of price point, come with a limited lifetime warranty and lifetime sharpening. Repair parts such as pocket clips, screws, and springs are readily available through the website, and the Kershaw lineup has everything from EDC knives that can be used and abused for under $50 all the way up to high-end collectibles. Thanks to our generous partnership with Kershaw Knives, Truck Show podcast listeners can get 40% off MSRP and free shipping over $50 by using the code 25TSP40 at checkout on the Kershaw.kaiusa.com website. When it comes to amazing adventure content, how-tos, and great storytelling, only one brand is doing it right in the print magazine space, and that's OVR Outdoor Vehicle Recreation. OVR is about getting out there in our vehicles to explore and discover the world around us. Get complimentary access for a year to the digital library or a discount on your print subscription today at ovrmag.com. Use the promotional code at Truck Show Podcast. Please support the Truck Show Podcast today by patronizing our sponsors. Have you heard? Well, this week there's a ton of truck news, and I'll start off with Lexus. I believe I called this when the GX came out a couple years ago and had the Overtrail edition. And I'm pretty sure we can go back into the archives and you will hear your man Holman saying that since there's no Land Cruiser, wouldn't it be interesting if Lexus took the LX, which is the real Land Cruiser, and made an Overtrail edition of that so that you could have an off-road LX. And that way we could get the full triple locker front, center, rear on a Land Cruiser here in the U.S., although masquerading as a Lexus. Well, sure enough, Lexus just released the 2025 LX, and man, have you seen the prices? Oh, so the LX 600 trim that was $93,950 to start is gonzo. So the lineup starts with the LX 600 Premium, used to be $101,865. The starting price, $106,850. Oh, man. But that's not all, because you could get into the new hybrid version, which is now called the LX 700H. I'll get into that in a moment. With the Overtrail, say what? Off-road package. And that's a cool $115,350. Now, if you want the full tilt LX 700H Ultra Luxury Package, did not exist before. This is top of the line. It'll set you back $141,350. That's a lot of cheddar. So the Lexus Overtrail, which is the one that I think I'm most interested in, even though it's at a price point I'll never be able to afford at $115,350, comes pretty well equipped. So that's going to be the new off-road package, and it looks pretty cool actually. If you read into the specs on it, it does have the 3.4 liter turbocharged twin turbo V6, but that engine produces 409 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. But now with the LX700H, it basically packs an electric motor that's sandwiched in between the engine and the transmission. And even though it's the same engine that the Toyotas get, it is tuned to run on premium in the Lexus, and so that makes the output with the hybrid powertrain 457, 583. And that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. All right, so if you want to get the off-road package, which is the Overtrail, you select that box, and there is actually quite a bit of content with that. So that starts with 18-inch wheels. I think otherwise you're getting like 22s. So 18-inch wheels, 33-inch Toyo AT tires. So it's the same tire that's on the GX Overtrail. And then you get a little bit different front-end styling. So what's really cool is that the LX700H Overtrail gets front and rear and center locking differentials. So like an 80 series, triple locked unicorn. I think the last time they did that was back in the mid-90s, so almost 30 years ago. And for those of you who the GX just wasn't enough, get yourself a LX700H. So it looks like Ford has another recall. This one is affecting the Broncos built from 21 through 24. And what happens is, I guess it's that carry on something we talked about before, where the reservoir on the rear shocks can separate because of corrosion. The tube falls off, and then you lose your shocks, but more importantly, you have a projectile like James Bond that's following your vehicle down the freeway that somebody else could hit. Sounds like there's been 551 warranty claims, 2 customer reports, and then a single field report, and it affects 149,449 Broncos. And for now, it sounds like there's no fix at this time, and it's something that they are currently working on. So kind of a fun story that's on the drive is about a Honda three-wheeler, 1986. This particular three-wheeler was still in a crate, and it found a buyer for $200,000. So anybody who's my age and remembers the three-wheelers back then, this is a 1986 ATC 250R, which back in the day was the cream of the crop. That was V1 to have. If you remember, it's red bodywork, blue seat, and it's got the gold wheels. And honestly, looking at this thing online, it still looks rad today. I know technology has come a long way. But anyway, $200,000. Would you pay $200,000 for a three-wheeler? I mean, that's the price of, homes. In any case, the Honda was a 246cc two-stroke. It made 38 horsepower and 29 pound-feet of torque. And that's probably about half of a economy car in the 80s, according to the drive, which is pretty funny. Curb weight was only 300 pounds, and, they were crazy death machines, but still super, super rad. More reports are coming out of the Nissan-Honda potential merger that it might be falling apart, according to the internet. Honda basically wants Nissan to be a subsidiary, and Nissan wants it to be a merger of equals, and they say the conversation about Nissan being a subsidiary of Honda was not in the spirit of the original conversation. So, of course, the companies aren't saying anything, but the Nissan board will meet in the future to decide whether or not to continue the talks. So we'll see what's next, but it looks like that merger or that deal is far from certain at this point. As if Chevy didn't have enough problems with the 6.2-liter engines, the internet's saying that there are no replacements right now, and so people are basically waiting for warranty, and the stockpile of engines have been used up. So now you don't have an engine at all. And then on top of that, Dave's Auto Center, you remember when they came on the show, they do the engine rebuilds and the diesels and whatnot. Well, they just had a customer come in with a GM 6.2 failure that failed at 4 miles. And they posted a post-mortem of the failure on their YouTube page, so go check that out. But I don't think that's the press that GM was hoping for right now as they try and solve the problem, especially on an engine that had just 4 miles on it. They confirmed during the teardown that the L87 small block basically failed due to a connecting rod coming apart. So head on over to Dave's Auto Center on YouTube, and you can take a look at what that looks like. So we recently brought you news that Ford's Jim Farley said that they're trying to create something special, right, for the Ford Raptor brand, like a supercar. So there's a little bit of conjecture trickling out on the internet that it could be something like the Dakar car in terms of looks. So is it going to be like a Raptor version of kind of that rally fighter where it's a supercar that's been jacked up. I know there's some conversation before about maybe a jacked up Mustang holding the Raptor name and all sorts of weird things like that. But after being in Dakar and seeing the Raptor T1 Plus race car over there, I could totally see a production car mimicking that kind of sports car, off-road, rally car, all smashed into one thing. I don't know. We'll see what Ford does, but if that's the form factor it takes, I'm here for it. Speaking of Dakar, you might be familiar with the Polaris RZR Pro R Factory, which was announced toward the end of last year, I think. Well, we have a price on it, and I'll just bring you up to speed on what that is. So this is the same one that won Dakar in the SSV class, back-to-back championships in Score Pro UTV Open class. So obviously something that is dialed, right? Like this is the real deal. The RZR Pro R Factory is equipped with a ProStar Fury HO 2.0 liter engine that makes 255 horsepower. The non-factory model is about 2,500 pounds or so, and I would imagine the race version will be less because it uses different high-strength steel chassis and carbon fiber body parts. Features a race-spec MaxLink suspension, Fox Live valve, X2 shocks, Dynamics DV semi-active suspension system. A wheel and tire package is a set of methods with 35-inch BFGs on it. And there's a whole laundry list of cool stuff. So Polaris will manufacture it 30 a year, and their partner Scanlon Clark Industries, so SCI, will handle all the sales, support, tech, all that kind of stuff, parts, blah blah blah. Here's the kicker. What do you think that bad boy goes for? Any guesses? As you're sitting driving your $77,000 Ram Rebel X down the road, listening to this podcast, can you figure out what the little toy RZR? I shouldn't be mean. It's not a golf cart. It's not a toy. This is a serious racing machine. Hold on to your horses, folks, because if the non-racing version is $45,000, what do you think the racing version is? $139,999 before destination. Oh man!
Whoa! That's not right.
I mean, unless it is right, because it's building a race car is expensive, and maybe this is cheaper into getting into racing than building your own trophy truck. Clearly cheaper than a trophy truck. Bad example. Anyway, if you want one of those, 140 large will get you one of the 30. I'm guessing even at $140,000, all 30 are probably spoken for. But if you want one, you can reach out to Polaris, and they're taking customer inquiries. So good luck. So our friends over at TFL Truck had an interesting story go up, and it's about which pickup trucks would be most impacted by the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And they kind of dug into this index called the American Made Index that Cars.com puts out. And this list is a little bit dated. It was last updated June 18th, 2024, but that didn't stop those guys from digging in. And so they specifically dug into pickup trucks and pulled out some interesting details from the data. So let's go through the top 10.
10.
All right, so in number 10 is the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is assembled in Dearborn, Michigan.
9.
Next up is the Ram 1500, which is assembled in Sterling Heights, Michigan.
8.
And in number 8 is the Hyundai Santa Cruz, which is built in Montgomery, Alabama.
7.
Number 7, the Toyota Tundra Hybrid, which is built in San Antonio, Texas.
6.
And in the 6th spot, the GMC Canyon in Wentzville, Missouri.
5.
Strangely enough, or not strangely enough, the Chevy Colorado is in number 5, but it has 1 point difference between the Canyon. So I don't know if the Canyon has one part in it that's different place of origin than the Colorado. But anyway, the GMC Canyon Colorado, 5 and 6.
4.
In the number 4 spot is the Toyota Tundra, which is the non-hybrid version, built also in San Antonio, Texas.
3.
3 is the Ram 1500 Classic, built in Warren, Michigan, although that one you could probably just cross off the list because that one is no longer in production. So if you want to move everything up one, then the new number 10, which was formerly 11, would be the F-150.
2.
And in the number 2 slot is the Jeep Gladiator, which is manufactured in Toledo, Ohio. And for the number 1 spot,
1.
that would be none other than the Honda Ridgeline.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Wrong number, but no. First place, Honda Ridgeline, the most American-made pickup truck, if you can believe that.
Dude, that was painful.
I really wanted to give it a gong, but I really can't because it's good for Honda. Good for doing that. You know how I stand on Ridgelines. But maybe they'll drag the rest of everybody with them and make them more American. All right, there you go, Honda. All right, that's enough for the Ridgeline. So I've been saving the best news for last, and that is Ford dropping the mic when they drop some crate engine news. So you've been able to get the 7.3-liter Megazilla, as they call it. And that is a 612 horsepower, 670 pound-foot of torque 7.3 Godzilla. And it's made for us, to be streetable. Runs on premium pump gas. It's a 10.5 to 1 compression. CNC ported aluminum cylinder heads, low profile intake manifold, 92 millimeter throttle body, Moly forged pistons, on and on and on. So 612, 670, and it makes over 500 pound-feet of torque from 2,500 all the way up to 6,000 RPM. And that is available for a cool $22,995. People love that engine because it's narrower than the dual overhead cam like Coyote. Fits in more places. It's perfect for older trucks and stuff. That thing is just amazing, right? So if that wasn't enough, Ford said, hold my beer because we're going to drop this new crate engine called
Megazilla 2.0.
All right, that might have been a little bit aggressive. Anyway, what they do is they take the Megazilla with all the goodies like the forged pistons, connecting rods, steel crank, ported polished cylinder heads, upgraded valve springs, all that. But then they put a Gen 6 3-liter Whipple supercharger on top of that, and it is said to produce more than 1,000 horsepower. Ford saying it's competition use only, but we'll see what the aftermarket has to say about that. They're like, oh, it's for desert racing pre-runners and drag strip. And you're going, yeah, I'm going to put it in my 67 F100. Anyway, if you want something street legal, they also released a version of the Coyote with the 3-liter supercharger. So it's basically the Mustang Dark Horse 5-liter Coyote. It's got a reprogrammed powertrain control module, and it gets 800 plus horsepower and 615 pound-feet of torque. So there's another option there. Says the supercharged 5-liter Coyote is street legal and comes with a 2-year, 24,000-mile limited warranty. Both crate engines will be available later this year. No price yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. If the standard Megazilla is $22,935 for Megazilla 2.0, well, if there's one thing that's for sure, I would love to drive something with that engine in it. So Ford, if you're listening, hook a brother up. Well, that does it for this episode of the Truck Show Podcast. Have you heard? And we will see you next week.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.